What's a scientific fact that most people would rather not know? Story 1. The real size and distance of things in space. To see things clearly, we need to make them a trillion times smaller. The sun is only 1.4 millimeters broad at that size. A piece of sand. The Earth would be 15 centimeters, or half a foot away, and about the same size as a red blood cell. Only Jupiter and Saturn can be seen, and Saturn's rings may be seen at a width of 0.1 millimeters and 0.3 millimeters, respectively. It would be 77 centimeters, 2.5 feet from Jupiter, and 2.3 meters, 8 feet from Saturn. Pluto would be 5.9 meters, 20 feet away, while Voyager 1, the farthest object constructed by humans, would be 25 meters, approximately a quarter of a football field, away. But Alpha Centauri? There would be an entire marathon between the grains of sand, which is 42 kilometers or 26 miles away. Phoenix A, the biggest black hole of this size, would be 590 meters wide, which is more than 1,800 feet. If this took the place of Alpha Centauri, it would look bigger than the full moon from Earth. Story 2. Your memories aren't like videos. Your brain actively rebuilds an event every time you remember it, and your emotions or new knowledge might affect it in little ways. The memories you love the best are probably the ones that are the least true since you've rewritten them so many times. I used to work in an office in South Melbourne. I would sometimes see film shoots in the vicinity. I never knew what was being filmed. It could have been advertising, training videos, or TV broadcasts. I saw the movie Love and Other Catastrophes years later. I worked on the street where they filmed a short scene of a fast automobile. I told my friends, I used to work on that street after that. As we talked, I remembered, actually, I think I saw them filming that. I could see the camera, the lemon-colored car, the crew, and the clapperboard all set up right there on the side of Eastern Road in my mind. The director even had a tiny folding chair. Story 3. It is a huge failure of the virus or bacterium if someone dies from an illness. In most cases, killing the host stops the life cycle of the organism that is causing the infection. The best thing that can happen is to make billions of copies without hurting the host in any way, or even better, to help the host in some way. The hantavirus in field mice is a good illustration of this. They will lose billions of viruses over their lives, yet it doesn't seem to hurt the mouse. Story 4. I don't get why it's so controversial, other than the usual, oh no's, the evolution people. Birds are dinosaurs. Not only are they related to dinosaurs, but they are also the last living dinosaurs. Maniraptor and theropods are the last living dinosaurs in the clade Dinosauria. People have physically gotten in my face and said it, and they weren't even on the fundy side. Yes, it's a little different from what some of us older people learned in school, but this isn't a serious threat to the way we see the world. It's just a way to group things scientifically. I think birds are cooler now though. Story 5. A lot of people will feel bad for a few days after getting a viral illness, like the common cold. Then they'll feel a little better for a day or two, and then they'll often feel much worse for longer. The first phase is when the virus takes over your cells and makes a million copies of itself. During this time, you can feel off and have a fever. The inflammatory phase is the second phase where your body understands it's under attack and makes inflammation to combat the infection. This is when you get the congested sinuses, the rising fever, the cough of death, the aches, and so on. Story 6. That the world we see isn't real. It's a meticulously made simulation made by our brains. Our eyes and other senses are biological tools that have developed to help us stay alive, not to provide us a clear, unfiltered perspective of the universe. For instance, a lot of flowers and plants give out or reflect infrared or ultraviolet light, which we can't see with our eyes. But bees and other bugs can sense certain wavelengths, and the plants employ these hidden patterns to draw them in for pollination. This indicates that the colors and shapes we see are only a small fraction of a much bigger world of sights that we can't see. A lot of people think that light passes from an object to our eyes, letting us perceive it precisely as it is. In actuality, our eyes can only see a small range of light wavelengths. Then, our brain gets this signal and puts the picture back together, giving it colors. Colors don't exist out there. Our brains make sense of different wavelengths of light and give them meaning. Different brains process this information in different ways. The famous The Dress photo is a great example of this. Some people viewed it as blue and black, while others saw it as white and gold. The clothing was blue and black, but each group of subjects saw a different version of reality because of how their brains process the picture. This shows that how we see things is quite subjective and can be readily changed. Story 7. A lot of people don't know that a theory is a really hard portion of science. It takes a lot to make a claim about a scientific hypothesis. The word fact is a lot less deep from a philosophy of science point of view. A fact is a clear statement. Evident means clear, or anything that at least one person has seen at least once. A theory is a collection of interrelated theorems that must be disprovable by at least one observation. Theorems, on the other hand, are statements that are founded on facts, but also on knowledge that has not yet been disproven. For instance, the existence of God does not constitute a scientific hypothesis, as it cannot be measured or observed. Particularly, one would need to assert what to observe if one were to believe in his existence. Some people may have seen something that made them believe in God, which could mean that God exists. You'd probably understand why the first one is more scientific than the second one. Story 8. From the point of view of astrophysics. When a tremendous burst of X-rays emerged from inside our galaxy in 2004, it filled up X-ray satellites and dishes all across the world. This happened roughly 50,000 years ago, and the light had been traveling for almost that long. It made the ionosphere of the Earth change in ways that were easy to see, like some solar flares. It came from a very magnetic neutron star that had its magnetic field rearranged, which happened when its crust slipped a few millimeters. It would have been brighter than the sun in X-rays from 32.6 light-years, 10 parsecs, away. An object that was 20 kilometers wide and 50,000 light-years away exploded with enough force to mess up sensors on Earth. That's a scary thought. Whoa, that's absolutely mind-blowing. And when you think about it, it's sort of scary. A neutron star is the dense remains of a dead star. When its crust shifted by just a few inches, it produced enough energy to send X-rays over 50,000 light-years and still mess with Earth's ionosphere when they got here. Story 9. The thymus is the organ above your heart that makes T cells. These cells are important for fighting cancer, adjusting to infections, and stopping autoimmune. It's big and healthy for babies and kids, but it slowly gets worse as people get older. Some studies say that after age 60, no new T cells are made, which makes people significantly more likely to suffer the diseases indicated above. Individuals believe that this, along with telomeres, which are linked to the slow loss of DNA with each cell cycle, is why individuals die of old age. The thymus starts to break down after puberty, and there is no way to stop it from happening right now. Story 10. Every day, our bodies fight cancer. Our cells divide around 2 trillion times every 24 hours. That's almost 80 billion times every hour. Mutations happen throughout this process, and they happen a lot, in fact. You probably have cancer at least once a day, and it's almost impossible for you not to. Tiny tumors. This is how all cancers originate. Our bodies have to battle cancer every second of every day to make sure these changes don't go out of hand. Our bodies are always at battle with each other, similar to the Lord of the Rings. The Uruk-hai are trying to get through the fortifications of Helm's Deep, but the soldiers of Rohan are stopping them. But every now and then, an Uruk-hai carrying gunpowder gets through. Eating right and working out both help to reinforce these walls, as well as keeping stress levels low, which is impossible, and drinking enough water. Story 11. The human body is a very complicated system, in the fact that most individuals don't suffer terrible diseases like locked-in syndrome or raving craziness is merely a matter of chance. People prefer to think that things like being thought of as beautiful, having a fast metabolism, or never being sick are because of their own hard work. But it's all simply a genetic and environmental lottery system. Your luck could change at any time. I don't think most people would want to know this all the time. Story 12. Spiders can feel the heat coming from your body, so they will come to you at night when it's colder and you're not moving, which makes you less of a threat. If you woke up and saw a spider right next to your face, it was really coming for you. And as most people sleep with only their heads uncovered, the spiders will be able to feel the heat most strongly there. Story 13. Because of pressures in the environment and habitat loss, many areas in the world will never sound the same again. For instance, a TikTok video that plays the sound of a mourning dove and talks about waking up and it's the summer of 1995. In some places, mourning doves have modified their cadence to shorter, harsher ones. Traffic noise, hybridization, and cultural drift, yes, birds have dialects, are the most likely reasons. In summary, the sounds you heard outside as a child are gone for good. Story 14. I went to a presentation on evolutionary development a few years ago where the researcher was looking into how fruit fly eggs grow. As cells move around to form the embryo, as part of cellular differentiation and the separation of embryonic tissues, they basically crawl over the basal layer on the inside of the endometrial shell. This movement makes the whole egg gently spin inside the fly's body where it's growing. I had never thought about what cellular migration really looked like before. She had a video of this. For some reason, I thought this whole thing was disgusting. Story 15, for a terrifying one. Once you start to show signs of rabies, you will die. Every year, it kills between 50,000 and 60,000 people. Symptoms can show up as soon as 4 days after interaction or as late as many months. One girl in her teens lived. They tried out a novel protocol that involved putting someone in a protracted coma with medicine. She was still really messed up after that, but she lived. Since then, no one else has lived. For a disputed one, there are big disparities amongst groups of people with the same race. It's very wrong to even talk about this, but the data is very clear. It's even contentious to mention things that are so clear, like people from sub-Saharan African ancestry, on average, have darker skin than those of East Asian descent. Even though it's absolutely factual, it's even more contentious to say that in the last 44 years, only one sprinter of non-African heritage has made it to the men's 100 meters final. It was 2020, and he came in last. The most ironic thing is that the individuals who know the most about evolution and can explain it to you in detail will strongly tell you that there are no biological differences between races. Story 16, a Vernisshat, which is a volcanic eruption that happens in a stable, non-volcanic part of the Earth's crust, can happen anywhere at any moment. If there is enough pressure under the crust and it can't get out, the crust will split and a piece of it, along with some of the mantle, will be thrown almost into orbit. We think this killed all the dinosaurs on both sides of the world. A violent eruption on one side of the globe destroyed everything on that side of the world right away. After that, a piece of rock at least the size of Tokyo dropped back down after a suborbital launch from the eruption. The impact of a small moon killed off all life on the other side. Okay, that's rather scary, like really scary in a deep way. We worry a lot about asteroids, supervolcanoes, and nuclear weapons. But then there's the Vernisshat, which is a whole wild card, apocalyptic scenario that may happen in the middle of an area of Earth that looks perfectly safe. There was no warning, no clear sign that something was about to happen, and no buildup of volcanic activity. All of a sudden, a huge piece of Earth shot up into the sky like a natural railgun, and then crashed back down with the might of a planet killer. Story 17. This is my opportunity to shine as a nature lover. There are more than 100,000 types of wasps, and most of them don't sting or hurt people. They're helpful most of the time. But people still get mad when I tell them this. Most wasps are either parasitoidal or hunting wasps. Parasitoid wasps put their eggs in living hosts, and the larvae consume the host while it is still alive. Hunting wasps will paralyze their target and then put it in their egg's nest for the larvae to feed. Birds like the cowbird lay their eggs in the nests of other birds. Even more birds will kill eggs and hatchlings to have a place to nest. To react with a threat, a lot of birds, like the northern mockingbird in the US, have unique sounds that bring out other birds. Mockingbirds can also tell people apart and remember them. So if you've made a mockingbird mad in the past, be careful. Passenger pigeons and Carolina parakeets were common birds in the US, but they are now extinct because of what people did. Pigeons are one of the oldest birds that people have kept as pets. The pigeons you see in cities are not wild, they are feral. People have eaten pigeons, used them in wars, and done experiments with them. Outdoor cats make their prey's habitat a mess. There is no moral way to let a cat wander free. Even barn cats and mousers kill a lot of birds, bugs, and other animals. The ladies of Photorus fireflies lure out the males of Photinus fireflies by imitating their light patterns and then consume them to receive the glow or toxins. Many species, especially plants and invertebrates, will die off before scientists even have a chance to study them. Story 18. There are no biological subdivisions, breeds, or races within our species. All people are the same in terms of medicine, genetics, and the nervous system. We are one of the animal species with the most similar genes. Some have Tay-Sachs illness, some Africans have sickle cell disease, and so on. These are geographic or local adaptations, not racial. It's not true that Africans have an extra muscle in their lower legs, that makes them better at sports. It's not true that Asians are naturally better at math and science. There is no way that Europeans are naturally better than anyone else. Not true. Some types of geography don't make it easier for people to give birth or feel less pain. The person you see on the street or in the store who looks like they came from a different continent than you is just like you in terms of their needs, feelings, rights, and human dignity. Story 19. As a psychotherapist, I know that not many people want to realize that our bodies are the size of a planet for all the little bugs that live on it and can't be cleaned off. I've told therapy clients who are obsessed with being clean about this, and I've done staff presentations on it. Almost everyone hates this knowledge. They seem to be in denial about it. I believe that the information is freeing, though. Most people are not harmed by any of these animals. Also, knowing that we aren't clean and can't ever be frees us from worrying about it for no good reason. Story 20. We are the most intelligent beings on Earth. Everyone agrees with that. However, a lot of people doubt the most fundamental point. We are the smartest living thing on Earth. People want dogs to be bad, but they can't because they're too dumb. People want trees to be good, but they aren't. They are mean and don't know how to be kind. People want crows to be fair when they evaluate others, but they won't. They live and die by mob mentality. People expect life to know how to keep going, but it doesn't. It destroys itself and goes extinct all the time. No species, group of animals, plant, bacteria, fungi, or ecosystem will ever be able to provide us justice, knowledge, purpose, or advice like we can. They are all less capable of guiding us than we are. Nature is a lot dumber and doesn't have any insights compared to us. We are alone in our intelligence and fairness, and no living thing can make up for our flaws, because they are even worse than we are. Story 21. The vast attractor is a strange place in space that pulls everything in the Virgo and Hydra Centaurus superclusters toward it. It is between 150 and 250 million light-years away from the Milky Way, which is also being drawn toward it. The alarming thing is that this anomaly is in the same plane as our galaxy, which makes it very hard to see. We don't really know what it is, though. Story 22. If your dog swims in a lake after getting a spot-on flea treatment, it kills a lot of bugs. A big dog swimming in 8 Olympic swimming pools worth of water soon after treatment will leach enough neurotoxicity to kill half of the lake's invertebrates in 48 hours. This is known about, but not enough people are taking it seriously. Edit. I need to note that when I say after, I mean not long after, like within a day, to have an effect this bad. The leaching does get better over the month, but it's still there. And having a lot of dogs still lets chemicals build up in a bad way. Story 23. The scientific literature concludes that Alzheimer's disease and other neurodegenerative disorders commence decades before the manifestation of overt symptoms, necessitating early intervention. It's too late when you show clear signs. Your brain has already turned to mush. If you are 65 years old and have Alzheimer's, you have had it for at least 25 years, and you had extremely modest symptoms that you didn't notice, and your brain struggled like crazy to make up for the lack. When you get diagnosed, your brain is already significantly injured and will never be able to make up for the loss. Yes, that's one of the most frightening truths about Alzheimer's, and to be honest, about a lot of other neurodegenerative disorders as well. We don't even know it's occurring until it's too late. By the time someone experiences memory loss, confusion, or personality changes that are bad enough to get a diagnosis, the brain has already lost a lot of its structure and function. We're talking about years, decades of slow, quiet collapse, neurons withering, synapses not working, and networks getting worse. And the brain is really effective at hiding, fixing, and covering up the damage at the same time, until it can't anymore. Story 24. I'm a cancer geneticist. Most of the time, sequencing a cancer case merely tells you how long a patient has to live or what the prognosis is, not what treatments are available. People often say, "Let's cure cancer." Yet this makes it sound like cancer is only one sickness. It's a lot more complicated than that. I went to school at one of the biggest cancer hospitals in the world, where the motto is "Make cancer history." But the only goal that can be reached is to make it chronic. We do as much research and study as we can, but each type of cancer needs its own research. Sadly, the people in charge often stop financing in good research. I love the work I do, but the system is dysfunctional and makes me angry to work in. Story 25. The Cascadia Subduction Zone, CSZ, goes from Northern California to Southern Canada, and breaks every 250 to 350 years. The geologic record tells us this. The last break happened in January 1700, and there are written accounts from Japan of a tsunami that came from the earthquake on the other side of the Pacific. This area is still active and is likely to break in the next 100 years, causing a Mag 9 or higher earthquake that will affect the west coast from northern California to southern Canada. Edit. These huge earthquakes that happen along subduction zones are called megathrust earthquakes. Story 26. I'm a researcher who works with soil science. We are degrading, polluting, and losing our topsoil so quickly that in 50 to 60 years we may not be able to grow enough food to feed everyone, even without considering what climate change might do to our food supply. The US government's crop insurance programs and incentives all make things worse and make it less likely that farmers will use regenerative methods. Because the big agriculture firms gain money off of these short-sighted practices, it is very hard to modify them. We are putting our food supply in even more danger by relying too much on aquifer water, which is not being replenished and is therefore an unsustainable source of water. If the aquifers are overdrawn, depleted, or polluted, we will run out of water and have no way to fix the problem. The draining of the aquifers also makes the land sink, which damages buildings and infrastructure that costs a lot of money. Most people don't know that these variables will soon trigger a crisis. Story 27. Here are some terrifying medical facts about CPR that you probably won't learn in school when you take a first aid or CPR program. I only learned these things when I went to school to be an EMT. How often does CPR work? Most people think 75% or more. It's really only 10%. They told us this right away in training because new people always think CPR will work too well. It can be really sad when you're doing everything you were taught to do, but you're not receiving the results you think you should be getting. The period between a heart attack and the use of an AED to give a shock is very important. They say that every minute the odds of survival go down by 10%, and rescue breaths too. If you're not extremely, and I mean very, careful, you'll create gastric discord. You will actually be blowing up their stomach and they will puke up. Next, there are the cracks and pops. If you do it right, it'll sound and feel like you're breaking every rib in little old lady Nelson's chest. You probably aren't. It's just cartilage and other things moving about. But if you push too hard, you might shatter a rib or two. But, well, they're already gone, so it doesn't matter. They'd rather have a fractured rib than be dead. Story 28. This glosses over the fact that we're burning up soil in the Midwest more faster than in other regions of the US. A lot of the damage from the Dust Bowl is still there, which is interesting, but we're using more input-intensive approaches to get results. Fertilizer runoff is also generating a huge dead zone in the Gulf of Mexico that doesn't have any oxygen. The nutrients nourish algae, which grows quickly and then rots. Some people are hoping that climate change will make usable soil available at high latitudes, like Canada and Siberia. But for now, it doesn't look so good because the soil will typically be poorer. For example, it will have less phosphate, and melting permafrost won't be very reliable for long. I understand that vertical farming and similar methods are getting better, but most of what may be grown is not very effective in terms of calories. Story 29. Botulinum toxin is what makes Botox. The bacterium Clostridium botulinum makes this toxin, which is thought to be one of the most deadly and dangerous things on Earth. The toxin is a neurotoxic that stops nerve signals from reaching muscles. Because of this, it stops muscles that have been injected with Botox from contracting, tensing, making them weak or paralyzed. This makes wrinkles and fine lines look better. Botox is only administered in small, targeted dosages, and as long as a licensed professional makes and gives it to you, it is very safe. Botox was also first utilized for eye care. Because I had a lazy eye, I had to receive Botox in my eyes. A lazy eye is like being cross-eyed, except your eye just slips out of place because the muscles aren't strong enough to maintain it straight. To cure this, you can either get surgery or conduct workouts to make the muscles around your eyes stronger. My surgeon decided to take preventative measures during my third operation. He over-tightened my muscles so that they wouldn't drift out, but instead they would stay where they were supposed to be when they were drifting. But that made my eyes really cross-eyed. So, my doctor used Botox to weaken those muscles just like you said, and now my eyes are entirely normal and haven't strayed since. That surgery happened when I was 16, and I'm almost 21 now. Story 30. This is a rehash of an earlier post, but it fits so well. The first nuclear bombs destroyed the cities they exploded over, but by today's standards, they are small. The Tsar Bomba was the most powerful nuclear bomb ever made. It was 3,000 times more powerful than the first nuclear bombs, and had more than 10 times the force of all the bombs used in World War II. That includes every bullet fired, every grenade thrown, every artillery round fired, every bomb dropped, and of course the 2 nuclear bombs that were dropped. It went off 4 kilometers above the ground over the distant Severny Island, but it nonetheless utterly wrecked villages up to a couple hundred kilometers away, and damaged windows as far away as Copenhagen, Denmark. The bomb sent forth a shockwave that went around the world 9 times. The plane that dropped it had a 50% probability of making it, but the bomb was meant to be twice as strong at first.